My sister-in-law moved in with us and stole my husband. I hired a private investigator and uncovered a 30-year family secret that changed everything. Now she's having his baby. I never thought I'd be sharing something like this, but I'm at a loss and could really use some advice. I'm Patricia, 32 female, and I've been married to Todd, 34 male, for 5 years. We met during our sophomore year of college when we were both part of the same study group for our economics class. I remember being drawn to his quick wit and kind smile. We started dating a few months later and have been together ever since. Our relationship has always been strong, or so I thought. We've supported each other through tough times, like when Todd's dad had a heart attack 3 years ago, or when I lost my job during the pandemic. We've celebrated each other's successes too. I was there cheering him on when he got his MBA, and he surprised me with a weekend getaway when I landed my dream job at a nonprofit last year. We've had our share of disagreements, of course, but we've always been able to work through them. Communication has been our strong suit. At least, that's what I believed until last month when everything started to fall apart. It all began when Todd's younger sister, Jennifer, 28 female, moved to our city for a new job at a tech startup. Jennifer and I have always gotten along well. In fact, she was one of my bridesmaids at our wedding. We used to joke that she was the sister I never had. When she mentioned she was looking for a place to stay while apartment hunting, Todd and I didn't hesitate to offer our spare room. The first week was great. We had family dinners every night, binge-watched our favorite shows together, and helped Jennifer settle into her new job. I even took a day off work to show her around the city and help her get acquainted with the neighborhood. It felt like we were all bonding, and I was excited about having Jennifer around more often. But then I started noticing some strange behavior. Todd and Jennifer would often whisper to each other and stop talking when I entered the room. At first, I brushed it off as siblings catching up or planning some surprise for me. But as the days went by, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. One night, about 2 weeks after Jennifer moved in, I woke up around 2 a.m. feeling thirsty. As I headed downstairs to get some water, I heard hushed voices coming from the living room. Curious, I quietly peeked around the corner and saw Todd and Jennifer sitting close together on the couch, looking at something on Todd's phone. They were laughing softly and seemed completely engrossed in whatever they were viewing. When they noticed me, they quickly separated and Todd put his phone away. He claimed they were just looking at old family photos, but their guilty expressions told a different story. I felt a knot form in my stomach, but I tried to push my suspicions aside. The next day, I tried to talk to Todd about what I'd seen. I wanted to give him a chance to explain, to reassure me that nothing was going on. But instead of the open conversation we usually have, he got defensive. He dismissed my concerns and said I was being paranoid. He even accused me of not trusting him, which hurt because trust has always been the foundation of our relationship. Things only got worse from there. Todd started coming home late from work, claiming he had to help Jennifer with her job search. But when I casually asked Jennifer about it over breakfast one morning, she seemed confused and said Todd hadn't been helping her at all. The lies were piling up, and I didn't know what to believe anymore. I started noticing other changes too. Todd, who used to love cuddling on the couch and watching movies with me, now seemed to avoid physical contact. He was always on his phone, smiling at text messages but quickly putting it away when I asked who he was talking to. Our conversations became stilted and superficial, a far cry from the deep, meaningful talks we used to have. After about a month of this behavior, I couldn't take it anymore. While Todd was in the shower one morning, I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked his phone. What I found left me speechless. There were hundreds of messages between him and Jennifer, full of flirty comments and inside jokes. Some messages even hinted at meetups I knew nothing about. My heart sank as I realized my husband and his sister were having an emotional affair, if not more. I spent the whole day in a daze, trying to process what I'd discovered. When Todd got home from work that evening, I confronted him. I told him what I'd seen on his phone and demanded an explanation. I expected him to be remorseful, to beg for forgiveness. Instead, he exploded. He accused me of invading his privacy and twisting things. He said I was making a big deal out of nothing and that I was trying to come between him and his sister. Then he stormed out of the house, saying he needed space. That was 3 days ago, and he still hasn't come back. Jennifer left the house the same night, leaving only a note saying she was sorry for causing trouble. I'm lost and don't know what to do. My whole world has been turned upside down. I've tried calling both Todd and Jennifer countless times, but they're not answering. I even went to Jennifer's workplace, but her colleagues said she hadn't been in for days. I reached out to Todd's parents, Charlie, 60 male, and Ruth, 58 female, but they seemed oddly evasive. They just said that Todd and Jennifer were going through some family issues and needed time. But the way they avoided eye contact made me wonder if they knew more than they were letting on. I feel like I'm going crazy. Am I overreacting? Is it possible there's an innocent explanation for all of this? I can't help but think the worst, and the thought of my husband having an affair with his own sister makes me sick. I've known Todd for over a decade, and nothing like this has ever happened before. We've always been honest with each other, and I thought we were happy. We even started talking about having kids a few months ago. We had names picked out and everything. Now I don't know if I ever really knew him at all. I'm torn between wanting answers and being afraid of what I might find out. Part of me wants to pack up and leave, but another part still hopes there's a reasonable explanation for all of this. I keep replaying memories in my head, wondering if there were signs I missed. Like the time Todd insisted on driving Jennifer to the airport when she visited last Christmas, even though I had offered to do it. Or how they always seem to have these long, private conversations at family gatherings. I haven't told any of our friends or my family yet. I'm embarrassed and don't want to spread rumors if it turns out to be a misunderstanding. But I feel so alone right now and could really use some advice. I can't eat, can't sleep, and I've had to call in sick to work because I can't focus on anything. What should I do? Should I keep trying to contact Todd and Jennifer? Should I hire a private investigator? Or should I just cut my losses and file for divorce? Any advice would be appreciated because I'm completely lost right now. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since my last post, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. Your comments have been a lifeline during this difficult time. After another week of radio silence from both Todd and Jennifer, I decided to take matters into my own hands. Many of you suggested hiring a private investigator, and after much deliberation, that's what I did. It was expensive, but I needed answers more than I needed money at that point. The pie came back with information that shook me to my core. It turns out Todd and Jennifer have been renting an apartment together on the other side of town. They've been living there for the past 3 weeks, ever since they left our house. The pie provided photos of them coming and going from the apartment, holding hands and acting very much like a couple. But that's not even the worst part. The pie dug deeper into their background and found some disturbing information. Todd and Jennifer aren't actually siblings. They're not even related. Here's the story. Todd's parents, Charlie and Ruth, couldn't have children of their own. They tried for years, went through multiple rounds of IVF, but nothing worked. Finally, they decided to adopt. They adopted Todd when he was just 6 months old. 5 years later, they adopted Jennifer as a newborn. The adoptions were closed, and Charlie and Ruth raised Todd and Jennifer as siblings, never telling them the truth about their origins. They thought they were protecting their children, giving them a normal family life. But their secret had unintended consequences. I was floored when I learned this. It explained so much: the secretive behavior, the guilty looks, the evasiveness of Todd's parents. They weren't covering up an incestuous relationship, they were hiding the fact that their children had discovered the truth and fallen in love. With this new information, I decided to confront Charlie and Ruth. I went to their house, showed them the pie's report, and demanded answers. They broke down and admitted everything. Through tears, Ruth explained that Todd and Jennifer had found out about their adoption 6 months ago when Jennifer needed medical information for a procedure. They had sworn Charlie and Ruth to secrecy, not wanting to upset the family dynamics. But Todd and Jennifer couldn't ignore their feelings for each other. They tried to fight it at first, which is why they were acting so strangely when Jennifer stayed with us. But eventually, they decided to be together, regardless of what anyone thought. I was angry, hurt, and confused. On one hand, I was relieved that it wasn't actual incest. On the other hand, I felt betrayed that Todd had hidden this from me and chosen Jennifer over our marriage. I thought about all the times we talked about starting a family, how excited Todd had seemed. Was it all a lie? After leaving Charlie and Ruth's house, I finally managed to get in touch with Todd. He agreed to meet me at a neutral location, a park where we used to have picnics when we were dating. Seeing him again after weeks apart was harder than I expected. He looked tired and stressed, but there was also a lightness about him that I hadn't seen in a long time. He apologized for the way he handled things but said he couldn't deny his feelings for Jennifer. He explained that when they found out they weren't biological siblings, it was like a switch flipped. Suddenly, all these feelings they'd been suppressing for years came rushing to the surface. He said he never meant to hurt me, but he couldn't live a lie anymore. Todd asked for a divorce, saying it was better to end things now before we started a family. He offered to give me the house and said he'd agree to whatever terms I wanted in the divorce settlement. It was clear his mind was made up. I'm still processing all of this. The past few months of my life feel like a lie. I'm angry at Todd for cheating, at Charlie and Ruth for keeping this secret, and at Jennifer for pursuing a relationship with my husband, adopted sister or not. But I'm also sad. Sad for the life I thought I had, for the future I'd planned that will never come to pass. I've moved out of our house and am staying with my best friend, Sarah, for now. I couldn't bear to be in that house with all its memories. I've contacted a divorce lawyer and am starting the process of ending my marriage. It's painful, but I know it's the right thing to do. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know I deserve better than this. I'm trying to focus on self-care and healing. Sarah has been amazing, making sure I eat and encouraging me to get out of the house. I've even started seeing a therapist to help me work through all these emotions. Thank you all for your support. I'll update again when I have more news. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and things have taken yet another unexpected turn. I thought I was done with surprises, but life had other plans. First, let me say that I've been doing better. The individual counseling has been incredibly helpful. My therapist has been guiding me through processing my emotions and helping me rebuild my self-esteem. I've also started a yoga class, which has been great for managing stress and giving me something to focus on outside of my problems. Now, onto the latest developments. About 2 weeks ago, I received a call from Jennifer. I was hesitant to answer, but curiosity got the better of me. She was crying and asked if we could meet in person. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a local cafe, Neutral Ground. When Jennifer walked in, I barely recognized her. She looked terrible, with dark circles under her eyes and a gauntness to her face that wasn't there before. She ordered a herbal tea with shaking hands and then launched into her story. Things with Todd had fallen apart. The reality of their situation had finally hit them, and they realized they couldn't build a relationship on such a shaky foundation. Jennifer said that once the initial excitement wore off, they found themselves struggling with guilt and confusion. They couldn't shake the feeling that what they were doing was wrong, even though they weren't biologically related. Jennifer apologized profusely for her role in breaking up my marriage. She said she got caught up in the excitement and forbidden nature of their relationship, but now she saw how much pain it had caused everyone involved. She talked about how she'd always looked up to me as a sister figure and how betraying that relationship was eating her up inside. Then she dropped another bombshell. She's pregnant with Todd's child. She found out a week ago and hasn't told Todd yet. She's terrified and doesn't know what to do. The fear in her eyes as she told me this was palpable. I was stunned. Just when I thought this situation couldn't get more complicated, it did. I didn't know how to feel. Part of me was angry that they had been so irresponsible, but another part felt sorry for Jennifer. She looked so lost and scared. After taking a moment to collect my thoughts, I told Jennifer that she needed to tell Todd about the pregnancy. Whatever issues they have, he has a right to know he's going to be a father. I also suggested she talk to a therapist to help her work through her feelings and decide what she wants to do about the pregnancy. After meeting with Jennifer, I reached out to Todd. We met for coffee at our old favorite spot, a little cafe near the college where we first met. It felt strange being there with him now, with everything that had happened between us. I told him about the pregnancy. He was shocked and seemed overwhelmed by the news. He ran his hands through his hair, a nervous habit I remembered well, and admitted that he and Jennifer had made a huge mistake. Their relationship had been a disaster from the start, built on a foundation of lies and confusion. Todd apologized to me again, this time seeming genuinely remorseful. He said he regretted throwing away our marriage for what turned out to be a misguided fantasy. He talked about how he'd always wanted a big family, and how finding out he was adopted had thrown his whole sense of identity into question. In Jennifer, he thought he'd found someone who understood exactly what he was going through. But in reality, they were both too damaged by the revelation to build a healthy relationship. To my surprise, Todd asked if there was any chance of reconciliation between us. He said he missed the life we had together and realized too late what he'd given up. I was honest with him. I told him that too much had happened, and I couldn't go back to how things were before. The trust was broken, and I needed to move on with my life. He understood, though he was clearly disappointed. As for Charlie and Ruth, they're devastated by everything that's happened. They feel responsible for the mess their children are in and are trying to support both Todd and Jennifer as best they can. They've also started family therapy to work through their issues and learn how to move forward as a family with all these new dynamics. I'm continuing with the divorce proceedings. It's painful, but I know it's the right decision for me. I'm focusing on healing and figuring out what I want for my future. I've started taking an evening class in photography, something I've always wanted to do but never found the time for when I was married. This whole experience has taught me a lot about myself and what I want in a relationship. I'm taking time to work on myself before even thinking about dating again. I want to make sure I'm in a good place emotionally before I open myself up to someone new. I'll update one last time when the divorce is finalized and I have more news about my next steps. Thank you all for your continued support through this crazy journey. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I'm finally ready to close this chapter of my life. The divorce was finalized last week, and I wanted to give you all one final update. First, let me say that I'm doing much better now. The counseling has really helped me process everything that happened and move forward. I've rediscovered old hobbies, made new friends through my photography class, and even got a promotion at work. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm thriving. As for Todd and Jennifer, their situation has stabilized somewhat. Jennifer decided to keep the baby, and she's due in a couple of months. She and Todd are not together romantically, but they've committed to co-parenting their child. They're both in therapy, individually and together, to work through their issues and learn how to be good parents despite their complicated history. Charlie and Ruth have been supportive throughout the pregnancy. They're excited about becoming grandparents, even though the circumstances are far from ideal. The family is slowly healing, though I imagine it will take a long time for things to feel normal again. Charlie and Ruth have been attending family therapy sessions with Todd and Jennifer, trying to rebuild their relationships on a foundation of honesty this time. I've maintained minimal contact with Todd, only discussing necessary details about our divorce. It's been hard, but I know it's the healthiest choice for me. I've also cut ties with Jennifer and Todd's parents. As much as I once considered them family, I need a clean break to move on with my life. The divorce settlement was fair. We didn't have children, so that simplified things. We sold our house and split the proceeds. I kept my car and most of our shared possessions since Todd felt too guilty to argue about material things. He did ask to keep a few sentimental items, like the photo album from our honeymoon and the vintage record player we bought together at a flea market. I agreed, feeling it was best to let go of these reminders of our past. I've moved to a new apartment in a different part of town. It's smaller than our old house, but it feels like mine. I've enjoyed decorating it and making it a space that reflects who I am now. My photography from the evening class adorns the walls, and I've set up a small home office where I can work on freelance projects. My career has taken an exciting turn. The promotion I mentioned earlier has put me in charge of a new project at the nonprofit where I work. We're developing a mentorship program for underprivileged youth, and it's been incredibly rewarding. Throwing myself into this work has helped me heal and reminded me of my passion for making a difference in the world. As for my personal life, I'm taking things one day at a time. I'm not ready to date yet, but I'm open to the possibility in the future. For now, I'm focusing on my career, my friendships, and rediscovering who I am outside of my marriage. I've joined a book club and a hiking group, which has been great for meeting new people and expanding my social circle. This experience has taught me so much about resilience, self-respect, and the importance of honesty in relationships. While I wouldn't wish this situation on anyone, I've grown tremendously as a person because of it. I've learned to trust my instincts, to value myself, and to set healthy boundaries. There are still days when I feel angry or sad about what happened, but those days are becoming fewer and farther between. I'm proud of how far I've come and excited about what the future holds. To everyone who's followed my story and offered support and advice along the way, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your kindness and encouragement have meant more to me than you know. Reading your comments and messages often gave me the strength to keep going when things felt impossible. This will be my final update. It's time for me to close this chapter and start writing a new one. Here's to new beginnings and the adventures that lie ahead. Whatever challenges life throws my way, I know now that I have the strength to face them.